Let's talk. I'm leaving DDO. Sucks to say that for a game that I've played since I was 9, played 4 years hard, stopped playing, not from gripes of the game, just enjoying different things, going through life. Came back to intentionally play, enjoy the systems that cannot be found anywhere else in other games. And after a little over 2 years, deciding that is that. There's so much that I have gripes with DDO, and there's so many gripes I have with DDO, and at this point, I'm just burning myself out by continuously playing it. It just doesn't do anything for me. The things that I enjoy are undermined at every level due to poor implementation of the systems that are core to the game. TR cache. And there hasn't been any communication from the developers that a lot of these issues that have been plaguing the game for years will go anytime soon. Getting stuck in load screens, wonderful ladder bugs, random crashes, being, want to play with a bunch of your friends, want to do raids. Well, don't do too much damage, otherwise you lag out. Don't push the difficulty too high, otherwise you lag out. It just undermines everything that the game is aiming to do, and it blows. Not to mention, on top of that, the content that is coming out, I feel, is not up to the quality that it needs to be. Feywild launched, it has mediocre content, and then the thing that is supposed to be there to continue to get people to keep playing the content, like raids, they introduce systems that are predatory as fuck by going, hey, you want to get these items, you want to get these chase items that have such a minuscule chance of dropping and no other way to get them, then buy timers, right? Otherwise, it'll take you years to get them all. Thankfully, they addressed those greater fate twisted chests and made it so you can buy the items with runes. But it's still like, even like trip ups like that are constant, and there's just no relenting on SSG's side of, or systems like that are constantly popping up. You look at also the Soul Vessel system that came with the expansion. Hey, new expansion, new content, new systems. Go back and do other old content that's been out for years and years. And if you really want to get this done fast, go ahead and go buy timers. I understand that companies need to make money, and there are ways to do that without undermining the core of your community and of your game. And for a game that has a box price, right? DDO is quote unquote free, but then you have to buy the expansions. Okay, so that's like $200 down to get all of those. Then you have to like $140. Then you have to go and buy every single pack and or sub. So now you have a sub fee. And then on top of that, there are microtransactions that directly impact power. Go buy boxes. Go through your lives faster. The racial grind the TR grind is a long one. And it's okay for that to be in the game, I think, because of how replayable the game is. Speed leveling and going through leveling is one of the most enjoyable aspects for me personally. But for someone that can just come in, drop a bunch of money on the game, and catch right on back up, it undermines all of that. And SSG does have some catch-up mechanics like that are solid. Like, you look at Slavers and Elshroud, and the material costs getting reduced, so you don't have to run those as much, and it's actually an acceptable time investment to go through those or that content and not just have to reset. Slavers and Elshroud is a good example of material costs being reduced and that quality of life and that catch up being implemented. For Slavers, it's no brainer when that isn't hyper end game content anymore, and use more niche just to not have people run it as much. For Elshroud, it's the same thing on top of, they could have just made it so more comes out of and Elshroud is the same thing where it's not run as much, although it is still an end game raid and the gear from there is still very solid. You don't have to spend as much time as in that old content. You can look forward to the new stuff, the things that you're actually applying yourself to. And a lot of, if not all of these issues that I have lie in the hands of the developers in SSG. And I've said this a ton of times, they're an indie studio that bought out a game that was too big for them, and they're making do as much as they can. And the paths that they're choosing to go that way just aren't working, at least for me. DDO and Dungeons & Dragons in general has a very dedicated audience, and that's fantastic. I love the community, have enjoyed my time here around the community, but the game itself is starting to degrade to a point where I'm not interested anymore. I'm not the target audience. I'm not someone who chooses to put I'm not the target audience. I'm not someone to put an excessive amount of money into the game to try to stay competitive on everything. Otherwise, you just put a overly excessive amount of time to reach the same thing. It's just not for me. I don't value it. And SSG's lack of communication and addressing of issues that have been brought up and are consistently brought up to them. There's no roadmap. There's no anything. There's just, this is what we plan to do at the start of the year. Will we get to it or not? We don't know. And from that comes the disconnect that I believe SSG has with its overall community and the overall health of the game. They openly, and there's no way that they don't know that they promote dupers in their official Chronicle posts, right? Where my name shows up next to someone who's been banned multiple times on multiple accounts for duping, has actively negatively impacted the game. And that sort of oversight or lack thereof is one that, like, I don't want to be associated around that. I don't want to be around in an environment where that is an acceptable mistake and without any addressing of it. And so overall, I've enjoyed my time in the environment, in the community, playing the game, doing challenges, pushing as much as I can. But that is the end of the road for me. And I want to thank everyone who came along for the journey, who supported through the past 2 years and some, through all the hardcore, all the raid pushes, all the speed runs, the content put out. I enjoyed it. Enjoyed pretty much every single person, minus select few, but there's always those bad actors. And I hope the game does well and is able to turn things around. Not holding my breath, but I do wish it the best.